Hello. Let me just get out of that. Welcome to something. It's going to be like a stories from the job kind of thing, which I want to talk about what it's actually like being a software engineer, which is a term I honestly don't like. I'm a programmer. Software engineer sounds so wanky, but anyway. And some of the experiences I've had, both good and bad, and what I do on a day-to-day basis. So if you are kind of interested in becoming a software engineer or a programmer, what you should actually expect out of the real world job, because if I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't expect the kind of weird mix of stuff I'm doing, but I'm glad it's like that. So I'm in a different room. I'm on my laptop, which is a 2012 Mac Pro. I resurrected from the bin, and it works well enough for what I want it for. It's somewhat compact, and it was very cheap because it was free. I'm also in the kitchen because that aircon vent above me is incredible, and this room is much bigger, so it doesn't feel like an ice block in here like my study. I know, first world problems. I'm also doing some baking over there. I'm just waiting for my butter to soften a little bit, and considering it's 30 degrees today, it's not taking too long, which is good. And I have my daughter today because my wife's at work and I'm on holidays, and she's currently not wanting to sleep even though she's in bed and is tired. So there's that. Yeah. So let's start off with a little bit about my job history, just very quickly. I've had 3 professional programming jobs, technically 2. My first job was a document controller, which is even wankier than a software engineer in terms of job titles, but I would basically be in control of documents. I'd get sent documents, I'd have to make sure they were in the right place, rename them, upload them other places. It was so fucking boring. I wrote a script to do it, and it took me about 4 hours to do the script, and that was the only part of my job that required any thinking, was doing that. But as part of that job, being that I just graduated as a Bachelor of Interactive Entertainment, majoring in games programming, they needed someone to do some programming for one of the jobs that I don't know how much I'm allowed to say about it, but it was automating programming of hardware based on a set of rules per hardware unit, based on the unit, the site, and all this other stuff. And I wrote that. That was about Hannah. She's reading a book to herself. I was in that job for 3 years, and I did the programming stuff for about a year and a bit. That was my first real professional experience programming. But because it wasn't actually a software engineer job, it didn't really count. I'm just going to check the recording. I apologize. Okay, cool. It's really annoying. I've only got one screen here, so I don't have my usual monitor for monitoring. Second job, I was there for, it was like 4.5 years. 4 years and like 3 months or whatever it was. And I was hired on as a junior software engineer, being that I hadn't had any professional experience proper. And that was for a radio and communications company. And that was an experience. So I was meant to be a tester for about 3 months. It ended up being closer to a year. Then moved into programming and all sorts of issues, which I'll go on about. And now my current job, I work for a place that has their own software development team, and we do all the internal software for accounting, stock management, everything that the company does goes through us, basically. And it's kind of incredible that how much our software actually does and how much we actually do. But that's much of a muchness. So I want to go through some good stories, some bad stories, and just what work looks like from day to day. So I want to start with a couple of bad stories, because that's my main introduction into this job with some bad things. My first, not real, but real job programming, it was a team of 3 people. It was the guy, it was a multinational company. Multinational? I think that's the word. International company. And this guy wrote a piece of software, and he came down to teach it to me specifically, because I was the one going to be using it. And so it was us 2 as programmers, and another guy as the hardware guy. although he wasn't really like an electronics engineer, he was sort of managing the, kind of like a router configuration specialist, like a Cisco guy. And he wasn't a programmer. He would program hardware, but he wasn't a software engineer. I guess that's why they determine the two things, differentiate. Anyway, and I remember I was writing this stuff up, and he would get on my nerves. I'm actually like swaying a little bit thinking about him. He would get on my nerves so badly. He would nitpick everything, not being a software engineer. And then one day, what pissed me off the most and really sort of rustled my jimmies was he sent me, like I wrote some code and I sent it to him to test, and he had to look through the change, because I think we were using some kind of like online code repository thing, so we saw the diff, and he just goes, what's this thing you've used? It's like, it's a ternary operator, which is that sort of compressed if statement. If you don't know that too well, it's like Boolean condition, question mark, true condition, true, a result if true, colon, result if false. I was like, it's a ternary, it's just a compressed if. And he told me to change it. He didn't ask, he told me to change it because he didn't understand it. The guy who wasn't writing the software or maintaining the software didn't understand the code I've written because he wasn't a software engineer, asking me to change the code. I cannot get across to you how incredibly annoyed I was at that. And these are the kind of arguments I would constantly have with him. And I was so glad when that project was over and I'd left. And I honestly don't know if anyone else took over from me. I thought it was a pretty good piece of software that we'd help write. But I don't know what happened. I don't really care. They made me redundant. So fuck them, I guess. The whole it's not what you know, it's who you know thing came to pass, and the boss had to get rid of a bunch of people, and he got rid of everyone except for his brother, his girlfriend, and his mate. And then like one or two other like really good workers. And yeah, because I had less experience than them, I got let go, which was fine, whatever. But then he got shipped off to international because he was bad, and then it was like, you have to either go here or you're going to get fired. His girlfriend got fired and his brother got fired because they're all awful. So that was fun. Yeah, great. So that was my experience not working at a software place doing software. And that was disgusting. So then I moved over to this other place where I was actually meant to be a software engineer. I spent close to a year as a tester. And to be fair, it helped me learn testing methodologies, which is still very, very useful. It helped me learn the software very quickly because we had to test everything, and because it was such a big piece of software, there was so much stuff going on between different software, different hardware, different operating systems, and all this stuff. It was actually a really good experience, but I wanted to code, and by the end of it, I was so fucking bored, and I just wanted to code something. And the first thing they got me to code was like a skin change. It was Qt, so they used like a modified version of CSS. So I was doing QSS. And it made me want to die. I'm not going to lie. It made me want to die. Just quickly check this. And yeah, that was disgusting. But then I got into actual coding. And that's when I learned that you don't have to be good at your job to be a software engineer, even high up. We had this team lead, or tech lead, one of the two. He was the highest of the high on this project. And he was tasked with finding out and making speed improvements on our software. And I'm pretty sure I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. And it was between two versions where it sort of went from a brisk pace loading up to a crawl. It went from like 4 seconds to 13 seconds to load up our software. And we have contracts that say from me pushing the power button to the software ready to use, it's X amount of time. It can't be any more than that. I think it was sort of bordering on maybe a little bit too long, or at least getting close to it. And they wanted speed improvements. And this guy, in his infinite wisdom, got the IT guy to recover every one of the last 100 and something builds. And they would have all been on tape backup because these builds were 3 gig, and I could do a build and have it put onto the systems to test it. So there'd be at least 2 to 3 builds a day. So they would wipe all the ones that weren't official builds that actually went out or that were important builds. So they made him go to the tape backup system to recover these 100 and something builds. And for 2 weeks, he went through them one by one, running the automated test we had to time the startup. And he figured it was between 2 versions that the time increased. On this version, it was a massive change. A lot of stuff had changed. We'd gone from being able to do X things to being able to do like 100 more things. And so it was a really big change. That's why it went slower. There's a lot more stuff to initialize and start up. So we went through the code, and his conclusion was, we just added more stuff. You're going to have to live with it. All right. Hey, Jason, can you see if you can make some speed improvements? All right, cool. Mind you, I'd only been there for a year. I've only been really professionally software engineering for about 3 months. I spent about 2 hours with a profiler. I forgot the word for a second. A profiler, which is the first thing this guy should have done. He should know what a profiler is. And I found the problem. I sped up our software by about 40%. The startup time went from 12 seconds to about 6. The speed at which you change tabs, because it's like a tabbed browser window thing, would be pretty much instantaneous down from about 2 seconds. And it was a 1-line change. And if he'd just run the profiler, he would have known that. If he was any kind of actual software guy, he would have known that. And that's when I learned it doesn't take a lot to get to the top, unfortunately. If you can lie enough and have just enough skill, you will get by. And someone like me who, I know, big head and all that, who does actually have some real skill, which was proven by this, I got shit on there. And that was garbage, and I fucking hated that. And this guy constantly proved to me that I was right in my assessment of him, like he would not understand basic reusability or object-oriented programming kind of practices, like if you have, say, a keypad, and you have 6 different things that need this keypad, and you can change them and knew what you actually selected and sort of use the keypad because it was all touchscreen activated. You don't need 6 touchpads, 6 keypads on the screen, or 6 keypads initialized that all are linked up and taking up system resources. You can just have one, and when you change the thing, just change where it's going to. I mean, that's not difficult. But this guy had it like that, and it ran like shit. And we showed it to the testers. Like the tester, he was a good friend of mine, he still is. He called me over and said, "Can you tell me why this runs like shit?" And I said, "I'll go have a look." And I just come back with this look on my face like, I cannot explain to you how fucking bad this guy is. And everything he did that I looked at was so bad. He made a touchscreen keyboard where if you'd like drag your finger up and down, it would move the whole row up and down like you were scrolling on a phone. And that was just, it blew my mind how bad this was. And then it got to the point where the main reason I wanted to leave was the constant micromanagement, the constant buddying and the brown nosing, and it's not what you know, who you know again, where it was pay reviews that actually, like, it set me over the edge. There was, our pay review system was everyone gets 3% as a base. If you get less than that, it's because we think you've done less than what you deserve, and if you get more than that, it's because you think you've done more than what you deserve. Whatever, you understand what I mean. But if they wanted to give me 4%, they'd have to take off 1% from other people. So it had to average out to 3% each. Hello, Rusty. What are you doing, buddy? Got my dogs in as well. So I get my pay review back. I got 2.5%. I was so fucking mad because I'd been promised more, not just in terms of money, but responsibility, title, all that kind of stuff. And I got none of it 2 years in a row. So everyone else, what did you get? 2.5, 2.5, 2, 2.5, 2.5, 3. And I find out it's because they gave it to another guy, all of it. He got 7. Because, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. He done the same amount of work as everyone else. We were on the same team. We did the same work output. We all worked on different projects and stuff. But I mean, that was one of the final straws. The other final straw was about a year before I finished, I broke my hand. I haven't really told this story, I don't think, but I'll just put it up there. I'm just going to check the recording again. I'm not proud of this at all. 0% proud of what happened. But we had this project where we had 2 weeks to create basically a brand new UI that would go across 2 separate computers. Not screens, but computers. Because it was based on a system that this tender we were going for already had. It was a $500 million tender. It was a really expensive system we were going to sell, and it was worth a lot of money. And we're in a rush. And poor daughter's sick. And we're in a rush, and everyone knew me as the guy who did stuff fast, so I was put on the project. There was very little instruction. We had a really badly photocopied manual from these people's software, and that was it. So I was kind of just going with my own thing because no one was giving me any instructions. And it wasn't what this guy wanted. Mind you, once again, no instruction, no design, no nothing. I was just kind of going with it. And he just kept picking at me and picking at me and picking at me for about 5 minutes straight. And I was ready to deck him. It was the angriest I think I've ever been at work that day. So I walked out to the bathroom, and I was so mad. I just wanted to sit in the bathroom and just cool off. And I lost my temper and I punched the wall. That's something I have not done in probably about 5 years, if not longer. And I actually broke my finger. And it's kind of hard to tell, but like this guy here, it's actually bowed a little bit. The bone, it bowed up. And my hand now does this. As a result, like that hand doesn't do that, well, a little bit, but because I broke that one, and I think I fucked up these ones pretty badly as well. So that was fun. That was the kind of angering stuff I had at that job. Like there was very little praise for any kind of work. Like I would take up other people's work that they just fucked up so badly and make it work. Usually faster because I was the efficiency guy. And I'd usually do it faster because I was the guy who did it fast. And still nothing. No recognition from the bosses. So I left that job. And mind you, during that time we had people, there was only 2 people who got fired or let go. One guy would constantly fall asleep, come in late, leave early, and he would keep telling the managers his tasks were on track. It was one big task, like a few months. And they got to the end, and he wasn't even 40% finished. And being a contractor, I think it was, they just said, no, fuck you, get out. And I don't blame him for that one. The other one was another guy who really got on my nerves because he would ask for help, even though he'd been doing the job for about 30 years. He'd ask me for help. I'd tell him what needed to happen. He'd get upset with me. He'd get angry with me because I was suggesting something that he didn't think of. And it was against what he already did. And it would make me so fucking mad. And he got fired as well, who was a contractor, and his contract was lapsed and they didn't renew it. Oh, and another guy got, same thing, contract not renewed because he fell asleep during a presentation that was for accreditation for security. Twice in one day he fell asleep in the presentation. He had the first presentation, then he had the second one, which we all needed to pass to have this like $2 or $3 billion tender or something ridiculous like that. And he fell asleep twice, so they just let him go. Once again, I don't blame him for that. But people like that guy who couldn't do coding, obviously, he stayed. I think he's still there. He's still the lead. He still gets paid probably a fuck ton. Anyway, so I moved on to this place. And I've been there since March, I think, so about 9 months. And it's a completely different environment. It's not a software house, it's an in-house IT team. And I was hired on at the same time as another guy. So we had, you right there, Rusty, buddy? We had a 6-month probation period. And I was really worried because I have imposter syndrome and I really couldn't afford to not have a job. But about 3 months in, I was doing a project. And this is where all the positive stories start, by the way. There weren't many that I really could tell you before that. About 3 or 4 months in, I did a project. And it was really well received. And the big boss, the guy who owns the place, liked it. And I get pulled aside by my manager, my boss, and he just goes, "How do you think you're doing here?" And I'm like, that's the worst thing you could say. I was freaking the fuck out. Because I think I'm doing pretty well. I'm, catching up and I'm getting used to everything, and I think my work's, pretty good. And he goes, I agree with you. He said it in that way that was going to be a but. And he just goes, boss, he also agrees to you, and he thinks you're really good. So the way he works is he likes to keep good people around. And the way he does that is with money. So he's giving you a pay rise at a turn. You'll still be eligible during the normal pay rise and pay review cycle. But here's some more money. What? Like this stunned look on my face. I'd gone from I think I'm getting fired to I just got a pay rise. Like, holy shit. This place seems to actually give a shit and actually recognize the work we're doing. Holy crap. And I'm still a little bit stunned that it happened. It was like 6 months ago. I'm still stunned that actually happened. I got a pay rise. I was recognized for work I had done. I got thanked. And mind you, this is how I go to work. Like, I am actually dressed the same way I go to work. Except for I've got my tracksuit pants on, come at home. I usually wear jeans. They don't care. They honestly don't care about how I look. The big boss, the guy who owns the place, he loves it. He just goes, "Mohawk, what are you doing?" My nickname is Mohawk. It's fantastic. So original, but I love it. And he'll sit there, taking the piss out of all of us. We take the piss out of him. We all take the piss out of each other. It's all very laid back. And it's the first time where I've consistently enjoyed going to work. It's been 9 months. I've enjoyed nearly every day of it, besides a couple of days where, maybe I'm in a shit mood, or my work's not gone down too well, or my work's just not gone well. Those days happen to everyone, but overall, it's been really positive, and it's so good to have that kind of environment where everyone has a sense of humour, and everyone does their work, and everyone knows what they're doing. It's so nice to not feel like the smartest person in the room. And I know that's very big-headed of me, but if you're in a room with a lead who doesn't know how to use a profiler, I think it's justified to feel a bit smarter than him, in terms of software engineering, at least. Maybe he's really smart in other things, but he wasn't good engineer. So that was one positive story. Now, the next one, I'm going to preface this with saying, I don't feel happiness for this story because of the reason that sort of it comes out as. So just let me finish the story. But yeah, let me just finish the story. So I'd been there for about 5.5 months when this had happened, and that's relevant. So the other new guy, you'll probably see where this is going. So our probation periods are nearly over. The boss goes, "Hey, other guy, come downstairs for a sec. We need to have a chat." Okay, cool. Those two go off, and the second in charge just goes, "Hey, can you all come over here?" So the other 3 guys go over there and he says, "Look, he's not working out. This is his last day. He'll be gone by the next half an hour. If you don't want to be around, go have an early lunch," because it was like 11 o'clock. Otherwise, he's done. And I felt really awkward because I don't like confrontation. I don't like that kind of stuff. So I went for the early lunch. And that made me really nervous too, because it's like, well, these are the kind of people who will fire you for not being good at your job, and being someone who has imposter syndrome and that sort of anxiety, that made me really uncomfortable. But the reason why I consider this a positive story is because of the experience at the last place where they would just keep on shit people. And as much as I do feel bad that the guy doesn't have a job or didn't have a job, I don't know if he has one at the moment, I was the one picking up his slack. Now, I don't mind working a little bit of overtime. Like, I have no issue with, look, we're really behind. Do you mind putting in a couple of extra hours, from home or on the weekend? It's like, you know what, every now and then, whatever, fine. But I was going to get to the point if he was going to stay where we were all going to be behind. And I think the thing that pushed my boss over was he was doing this guy's work at home on the weekend. And he was getting scolded for it because it was due and it wasn't there. He's like, yeah, it'll be done this week, and it wasn't done, and it'll be done this week, and it wasn't done, and it'll be done this over and over again. He was getting the shit kicked out of him, I think, from the higher ups, and he's just like, no, this is not working out. And this guy had every opportunity to prove himself. He was put in front end, back end, reporting, everything, and every part of it, he failed. I don't necessarily think it means he's a bad software engineer, but he just wasn't a good fit for the work we're doing. And once again, I feel bad for him. But from my perspective, if you keep on shit people, you get shit work. And even though we're one person down, our work output is up because I'm not wasting time helping him. He's not wasting the other guy's time asking questions or that guy's time asking questions. We are all getting our shit done with minimal interruption. And once again, I will say it for the 100th time, I feel bad for him. But at the same time, I have to feel good for myself. And that was like a pinnacle moment of this company does not keep on shit stuff. And that is so important. If you want quality output, you need to have quality people. Once again, very big-headed of me. And for an example, right, there was one thing he was working on for about 2 or 3 months, which was the front end to my back end. And it wasn't done. And so he was moved off that, and I was given the front end work. I basically deleted it all and started again. I kept a few bits and pieces. But I don't think there's actually anything left from him at the moment, but I got it working in about a week. Now, I will say, objectively, I work much faster than the average person, okay? When it comes to, just checking it again, when it comes to actually doing the work, if I have a plan in my head, I will get it done faster than most other people. If I know the systems and I know all the software and all the tools I'm using. So maybe someone else would have done it in a week and a half or 2 weeks, but not 2 or 3 months and still not working. That was just ridiculous. And this is the kind of thing I've proven again and again, no matter where I've worked or what I've done, which is really good for me. So, and that's what I'm actually known for at this place as well, for being someone who does work fast and somewhat decently. So that's good. That's good for me. But yeah, that's. I know it seems like a really negative story, and me being a bit of a jerk, but it's positive for the job. It's positive for the team. It's positive because we now have less dead weight. And once again, that seems very cruel, and it kind of is. But you got to think about the greater good. It's never good for the person getting fired. Maybe it's not fair for them. Maybe it's an unfair dismissal or anything like that. This was not that. He definitely did not. Won't say deserve. Didn't need to be there. He could have just not been there, and we would have had the same work output, which we have proven. And being that we were trying to get the profile of the team lifted in terms of the company, because apparently there was some pretty big fuck ups before I got there, and they needed to have win after win to get that sort of positive reviews from everyone. It just wasn't going to work. So that's a positive story. And yeah, the environment I work in, everyone's very friendly. Everyone will make jokes and rip into each other. Like when I had the long mohawk, I'd be called Mullet Hawk because I had the mullet. And the mohawk jokes are constant. The Megadeth jokes and metal jokes are constant. And it never stops. And that's a good thing, providing that they... Oh, you okay, darling? Providing that they don't go too far, which they never do, which is good. So that's my experiences. Christ, look at this going for. Half an hour of me talking shit about my work experience. To sum it up, if you find somewhere where you're happy over the course of 9 to 12 months, stay, providing you don't get fucked over with pay and stuff. Because it can be often better to leave and come back. You'll get a bigger pay rise. Anyway, let's talk about the actual job, what I do day to day. I've actually got this up. This is Azure DevOps, which is free for teams under 5. It has code reviews, it has code repositories, task boards and sprints and all that kind of stuff, if you know what all that stuff is. If not, it's just an all-round great tool for managing your own work. Now, we use this at work, and it's really good. It's a Microsoft product, but it's really good. It's backed by Git as the source control. It's got a whole bunch of tools and extensions. You can do build pipelines and testing and all this cool stuff, and it's really good. And it's free if you've got a small team, which I do. I'm doing this basically on my own. This here that you're seeing is my Azure DevOps for my work that I'm doing with my game. And what you're seeing here is my task list. So I spend about 2 hours today just putting in some tasks so I can have stuff to do. Just things to do. It's also got a wiki, I think, as well that you can put shit in. So it's really good. And that's just for like a little bit of self-motivation, like gamifying my life. But we actually use this at work to assign tasks to people. We have about 1,000 tasks in there at the moment, so it's a little bit different. But the way my job actually works is we work in 2-week sprints, which I believe is fairly common. It's called Agile methodology, which is one way to develop software. I think it's a bit of a misnomer, Agile, but that's beside the point. So it's 2 weeks. We spend Monday planning the next 2 weeks, assigning tasks, assigning hours to those tasks, and making sure everyone has enough work, but not too much work for the next fortnight. Then we spend 8 days actually doing the work, and we spend the final day, going through code reviews, merging, testing other people's work, and all that kind of stuff. Now, we have an 8-hour work day, but we only get assigned between 5 and 7 hours of work a day, depending on what we're expecting to actually get done. The reason for that is code reviews take time, tech support takes time. It's loud here. All this stuff takes time. So you need it, because we are the tech support team as well for our software. So we have those extra hours of the day taken out so that we can do that stuff. We don't always do that stuff, so sometimes we get extra hours to do our work, which is fantastic. And sometimes we have to do more than those 2 or 3 hours a day. So, as I say, it all comes out in the wash, but that's kind of the work fortnight that I have. And that's every fortnight. And some of those tasks aren't just write this piece of software. It's investigate, it's design, it's fix a bug, it's go see these people about a piece of hardware or something like that. It's not necessarily I'm going to be spending 6 hours at my desk just coding. And that's the part I think that shocked me the most, that I never really thought of. It's not all about, when you're working in a team, it's not about just coding something, because someone else might have to maintain it. And there's a saying that I've read, it's write software like a serial killer who knows your address is maintaining it. And I think that's extremely important, to write readable code that's quick, that's commented well, it's well laid out, all that kind of stuff. And then also having, if it's a really big system, having a design, showing how things fit together, showing how it interacts with other systems, showing how it goes out on the network, stuff like that is extremely important. And because now we're working with a lot of data in a database, seeing how the tables work and how the columns work and how things link and primary keys and all this kind of stuff is so, so important. And you might spend 2 or 3 weeks just designing systems. That's not unusual for me. I've done that a lot before, and it is so important. And I think people forget that coding as a job is not just about coding. At least, or they don't know, because I never knew. And then you have testing. Testing your own work is a big thing that people forget to do. It's not just a matter of it should do this, But it shouldn't do this is the other thing people forget. Or when you do this, it shouldn't crash. Or what happens if I'm accessing the database and I rip my network cable out, what happens? And that's simulating fault, a switch might go down, you might knock the cable out, Wi-Fi might drop out, that kind of thing. It's not literally someone's going to rip the network cable out on purpose. And just thinking about those things is so important. And gathering requirements from people who are actually going to use it, that is so important too. Like, you don't think, it's like, I'm going to make a system for me, and it becomes really easy for me to use, but it's complicated for the end user, and that's not good. Having user feedback is also very important. And these are things that people just don't think about when they go into getting their degree or learning to code. It's so different doing it at home on your own, or as a uni project, or even as a small group when you have to only do it for 6 months. When you have something long term that you have to maintain that is of critical importance. Like, if our software goes down, our business stops. And that's not an exaggeration. If it's dead, it's done for. We can't make sales, we can't do deliveries, all this stuff. And at the last place we had it was used for emergency services. If it goes down, 000 or 911 might not work for whatever county or town was using our software. And we would get fucked so hard by those people, because we would have SLAs saying that it has to be up for this long. But yeah. Oh, Hannah. Hope she's okay. It's those little things that sometimes you don't think of, and that's why I've got this up. I've spent most of today just writing tasks for myself, because for one, it helps me with motivation. That's why I'm out here in the kitchen. The main reason is because if I'm at my desk, I have 3 screens, an Xbox and a PS4, and a gaming capable PC. No chance to do any fucking work, just none. But I'm out here, I have a 15-inch laptop with a 1280 by 800 screen, 16 by 10. Yeah, makes sense. I've got a crappy Microsoft mouse, and I've got a keyboard that I don't really hate, but I don't like. I'm not very comfortable because I'm on a kitchen chair and a kitchen table. But I have no distractions. I have my phone, which I can watch YouTube on, which I usually do at work anyway. But I sort of have that in the background. I'm not like doing this and staring at it. And that's what I need in my life. But at work, I don't need that. At work, I'm getting paid to do this, so I'll just do it. At home, it's a bit different. I could go and play NBA or Mortal Kombat or something, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do my work. And this helps. Having actual tasks to pick off the list to do is so helpful for me personally. And I don't know why that is for me. God, my dogs are snoring. But it is. And after this, I'm going to go bake and be happy. Not get weed. That'd be bad. Don't do drugs, kids. Or do. I honestly don't give a fuck. But I'm going to bake cookies because it's Christmas Eve. And people want my cooking for some reason. And I think I'm sort of starting to go off a tangent a little bit. The basic gist of what I want to say is, it's never going to be exactly as you expect. I think everyone does it a little bit different. And then as someone who's just only done coding, you don't expect all the admin work. So if you want to go into this field, be prepared for it. It's not a bad thing. It's just tedious and boring, but it's a very, very necessary evil. It's so hard to write good software without good documentation backing it and good process. And if you're lucky, like I currently am, you will find a good group of people to work with who are smart and who are driven and who will take piss out of your mohawk, because that's the kind of group you want. I hope you've enjoyed this 40-minute long, 40-minute long. You can watch this screen. I love doing this. Whoop, whoop. Whoa, sweet. This 40-minute long video. Sorry. This 40-minute long video about just my experiences as a software guy and as someone who really does love his job now more than ever. Hope you've enjoyed it, and if you've watched this, I apologize, and I'll see you next time.